It's Lollipop.
Punish her!
For a Roblox game, at least, Phantom Forces is absolutely ancient. It's honestly kind of astonishing that it's managed to retain such an active community for such a damn long time. I think that's a testament to how much care has been put into the development of the game over the past few years. Certainly luck's played a part, but a game like this should have died completely several years ago, especially with the recent climate of popular Roblox games. And sure, it's not topping the front page ultra kinky style anymore like it used to back in the day, but it's still pulling in a respectable amount of players. At the time of writing, just under 5,000 people are playing it at the same time. Just one little issue. An archive of the front page of Roblox from March 20th, 2016, just a little bit after the game first entered beta, shows nearly the exact same amount of players, around 5,000. The same day in 2017, 7,000. March 23rd, 2018, 25,000. The peak of the game's popularity. It's only downhill from here. July 14th, 2019, 5.7k. July 14th, 2020, Adopt Me is crushing it with 650,000 concurrent players, and Phantom Forces has barely budged at 8.3 thousand. July 14th, 2021, and I'm not even able to find Phantom Forces on the front page. This year only had 3 archives, all from the same week in October for some reason. Anyways, on October 19th, 2021, the game's got 5,700 players, exactly the same as in the middle of the summer 2 years before. Head forward one last year to August 31st, 2022, 6.5 thousand players. I'm gonna be honest, looking at these numbers is kind of astonishing to me. They're not bad, sure, they're pretty healthy to be honest, but they've been dwindling slowly for a long time, and they've certainly not grown in the past few years. For a while, people have been saying things like Phantom Forces is dying, and Phantom Forces is dead, and Phantom Forces funeral scheduled in a couple weeks. People like Ruby, Strider, Ruby. Sweet Christ, you fuckers really milked this shit, huh? To be honest, I'll admit, I totally thought they were exaggerating, but no, these numbers match up pretty well with what most quote-unquote, why Phantom Forces is dying type videos claim. I'll also say that these numbers could certainly be significantly worse, but they also reflect a big problem with the game. There are a variety of reasons why people get burnt out on this game so often. One that I hear cited a lot is poor and infrequent updates. Every time one of the game's developers decides to open their filthy mouth to talk about what they're planning for it, a swarm of tiny little gremlins come in to complain about the changes. And sometimes the reason why they're complaining aren't even completely unjustified garbage. I'm just gonna pretend like I ever noticed the nerf to imp sliding. I didn't, and say that I don't think that the attitude that the devs have taken towards the movement system as of late is a very good one, and it seems like the majority of people agree. A bit back, I think they were considering removing imp sliding entirely, which would probably make the average rank 25 who vote kicks anyone who kills them happy, but most of the serious player base of the game is in a dangerously deep love with being able to move at an unreasonable speed, including me. The movement system is one of the main things keeping people engaged because it's so odd and unique compared to similar games. And I know for certain that it's one of the things that kept me playing. Anyone up for me to do a reading on AO3 of Phantom Forces Movement System X Reader? But to be honest, from what I've seen and heard, most people who do actually play Phantom Forces either only play it because they're dangerously bored or because their friends are playing it. Another pretty striking issue I mentioned earlier is that Phantom Forces is actually fucking archaic, straight out of the goddamn Bronze Age, at least for Roblox standards. From what I know, the original alpha build of the game was made in 2014, and the game opened up for public beta testing sometime in late 2015 or early 2016. Since then, surprisingly little has changed. Now, obviously, the game is very different compared to what it used to be, what with a ridiculous amount of new guns and like 4 different total GUI overhauls, but the core gameplay loop is pretty much the exact same. Now, that's not an insult to the developers or the game or anything, that's just a symptom of being part of the FPS genre. There's obviously room for creativity, but not nearly as much as some other genres of games like sandbox games. Especially on modern Roblox, where FPS games pretty much sit in the background the whole time, being outshined by an assortment of Elsa Gate tier trash, rubbish, slop garbage, uncomfortably smushed next to some of the most interesting concept ever executed on the platform. The point is that this game is old, and a whole hell of a lot of the grime that it's picked up over the years has stuck to it probably permanently. I've heard a pretty good amount about how limiting the game's code is when it comes to adding new interesting things, especially anything that isn't just a couple new guns, which is unsurprisingly what most of the game's updates have been. As well as that the amount of dedication that it takes to get good at Phantom Forces nowadays is just too much for most newer players to bother with to get into it. Most FPS games have a similarly high skill ceiling, but this isn't unique to Phantom Forces, but it's certainly still a part of what's got the game stagnating. Well then what then, when there are so many fewer people to fill the places of the previous generation of Phantom Forces players who got bored and decided to create a Twitter account with an anime girl profile picture to make fun of minorities online instead of compressing 7-year-olds into meat cubes. The script is awesome, bro. Once Core Fidelis is up and running, chances are a lot of stylist resources are going to be shifted over to that instead. I'd wager that's already one of the reasons big updates aren't nearly as common as they used to be. I think it's also a safe assumption that when that happens, a huge portion of Phantom Force's player base is just going to walk right out the door without ever looking back, especially newer players who aren't as attached to the game as someone like me, who's been playing for 8 years, and who's developed a sentimental connection with the game. This isn't like a sudden shutting down situation, it's a slow and quiet death that pretty much everyone who knows anything about Phantom Forces has anticipated for a while now. And since most people probably expect it to have already happened by now, most people have also probably already accepted it and moved on. I can tell you one thing for sure, Stylus knows it's happening and are planning through it, not around it. That is to say, they'll probably just let the game finally rest once at a time. But why should you give a shit? Well, I'm gonna be honest, you probably shouldn't. Doesn't seem like most people do now anyways. But regardless of if you do, I've got my own 2 cents to throw in. It's I'm quitting Phantom Forces Friday, if you even care. For a while now, I've been thinking about the direction I want to take my channel in. I've done a lot of introspection, and a lot of my feelings have pointed towards the fact that I feel like Phantom Forces alone isn't a particularly great medium for what I want to do, at least in regards to my YouTube channel. I enjoy playing it, and I enjoy making videos about it, but at the end of the day, it's sort of just a really big hallway to nowhere, and I want to turn around and exit that hallway, even if a lot of people don't follow me out of it, if you know what I mean. I want to be able to be proud of my videos, instead of just being happy or satisfied with them. And a single game with the world's most basic and concrete gameplay loop is just not going to cut it. I want to be able to have a big, autistic daydream making this crazy fun video with all this cool shit in it. And instead of going, well, I don't think I could do that, certainly not in PF, it would be too much work, I want to actually fucking do it. I respect the people who do set up their channel and art around Phantom Forces or any other similarly non-malleable game. It's admirable being able to make so much out of so little, but it's not who I want to be. Phantom Forces isn't boring. It's actually more on the relaxing end, but only when you're not recording a video trying to make something interesting happen and getting frustrated with 6 hours of totally unplanned and unscripted footage being smelted into a 10-minute funny moments video that was the exact same as the last 5 you made. Trying to record Phantom Forces videos only, even if it's just for a year like I've done, is fucking infuriating just because of how little there is to work with. The meta for PF content seems to just be analyzing the stats of guns, and I've done that before and enjoyed it, but that market is so oversaturated that it's hard to come up with something interesting out of it. Again, I respect the people who do manage to make something interesting out of it, but that's just not something I enjoy. Now, I'm not gonna totally stop playing Phantom Forces, and I'm certainly not gonna totally stop making videos about it. No, there's not even a guarantee that the next video after this won't be a PF video. And I'll no question still stream it, because even if it's not a great game for dedicated videos, it's certainly a great game to stream, especially with friends. But from here on out, go ahead and actually expect some non-Phantom Forces content. You know, besides the vent videos that look and sound like